Hey everyone, for the next part of Chapter 4, Section 7, we're going to talk about how to determine the number of solutions of a quadratic equation or the nature of the roots of a quadratic equation by using what is called the discriminant. So first, let's just talk about the types of solutions or the different nature of roots that you can have when you are talking about a quadratic equation. So a quadratic equation can have either two real solutions, one real solution, or no real solutions. So an example of two real solutions would be like x squared is equal to 4. Because if we solved this, we would get x is equal to 4 or negative 4. Right here we have two real numbers that are both solutions, so two real solutions. Next, we have one real solution, which is something like x squared is equal to 0. And that's because if we went and solved this, you would just get that x is equal to 0. And that's the only solution, right? So we say that there's one real solution. And last, we have no real solutions, right? That's like x squared is equal to negative 4. And that's no real solutions because if we tried to solve this for x by taking the square root, we'd have to do the square root of negative 4. And if you were to plug that into your calculator, you would get some error because there's no real solution to it. You can solve it by using what we call imaginary numbers, but we'll learn about that later on. So to find the type of solutions or the nature of the roots of a quadratic equation, we have to take a look at what's called the discriminant of that quadratic equation. So the discriminant of a quadratic equation is just the value of the expression b squared minus 4ac. And as you can see here, we take this b squared minus 4ac from what's under the radical in our quadratic equation. Now let's talk about the nature of the roots of a quadratic equation. This is just another way of saying the types of solutions. So when we take the discriminant and we get that b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, we say that there are two unequal or two unique real roots. If b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, then there's a real double root, or you could say that there's one solution. And if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, then there are two conjugate imaginary roots, or we could say two imaginary solutions. And the discriminant can also tell you how many x-intercepts the graph of your parabola will have. So if our discriminant ends up being greater than 0 and there's two real solutions, we say that there's two x-intercepts. If from our discriminant we find that there's one real solution, there's only going to be one x-intercept. And if our discriminant is less than 0 and there's no real solutions, then our graph will have no x-intercepts. So now let's work through some examples of finding the discriminant and determining types of roots. So first we have 3x squared minus 7x plus 5 is equal to 0. So we start by doing our discriminant, which is b squared minus 4ac. Right? So here we have our a, our b, which is negative 7, and our c, which is 5. So what we have to do, we do b squared, so negative 7 squared, minus 4 times our a term, which is 3, times our c term, which is 5. And then we just go ahead and simplify. So this is 49 minus 60. And from here, we don't even have to solve anymore. We know that 49 minus 60, well, we know that that's less than 0. So we can say, because of that, we will have two imaginary roots. Let's take a look at our next example here. We have 2x squared minus 13x plus 15. Well, here we're going to do the exact same thing. Just take our b squared minus 4ac, use the discriminant. So here, our b squared term will be negative 13 or b is negative 13, so we take negative 13 squared, minus 4 times our a term, which is 2, times our c term, which is 15. And then we can go ahead and simplify. Right? 13 squared, well, that gives us 169. And then 4 times 2 times 15, that gives us 120. And from here, once again, we know that 169 minus 120, well, that's going to be greater than 0. And when our discriminant is greater than 0, we have 2 real unique roots. All right, let's take a look at one more. And for this one, you can go ahead, try this on your own first. Pause the video, take a shot at it, and then resume the video, and let's go over and see if we got it correct. So for the last one, we have x squared minus 10x plus 25 is equal to 0. All right, so you can go ahead, pause the video, try it out. All right, so here we do the same thing, b squared minus 4ac. So here our b term is negative 10. So we're going to do negative 10 squared minus 4 times here our a term is 1 and our c term is 25. And well, that gives us 100 minus 100, which is equal to 0. So we know that there is only going to be one real solution to this quadratic equation. Or you could say one real double root. And that's it. That's how you find the discriminant of a quadratic equation and determine the nature of that quadratic equation's roots.